Hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. Today, I'm joined by Cindy Romero, a former Aurora resident who lived in one of the apartment buildings that was taken over by transnational criminal organization TDA. You've probably seen the security camera footage that Cindy and her husband recorded of gang members kicking in doors and carrying firearms. Thankfully, she was able to escape from the dangerous apartment and find a new place to live. Cindy, I hope you're well and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Cindy, can you describe how your family first became aware of this criminal takeover of your apartment building?
It was um, it was subtle at first. Um, the apartments started getting filled, and we thought, oh great, we got new neighbors, and that's not a big deal. It's great to have neighbors that you can count on in case anything goes crazy. Um, but shortly after the apartments got filled, we started to see that the empty apartments, the ones that we knew that they needed repairs, people had moved out of them. They hadn't been updated since the last people moved out. We started seeing those doors slowly being broke into all through our apartment building. And there's 12 apartments in our building. And one by one, we would see the doors being replaced. And it wasn't by maintenance people. They would take the door off and go without a door for days and days, or go without locks or doorknobs for days and days and days. And then suddenly they'd have a new door. And we thought, wow, that's strange, that keeps happening, but okay. And we just kept, um, keep paying our bills. Yeah. And, slowly we seen that those people who we thought that had actually paid rent, maybe had a lease, they started moving off the property. And we thought, wow, it's great that they're moving on to something better, because this is, it's low income. Certain things you have to put up with in low income that maybe you wouldn't necessarily have to put up with if you lived in a better part of town. Um, so as these doors started being replaced, and these families that we had known that were staying there started moving out, we started noticing the residents change. And they changed from small families that were, going to work every morning because we'd see them leave and wave hello and goodbye, to young males carrying bags and driving cars with house speakers in their trunk. And they would sit, I lived on the third floor, they would sit in the parking lot right up underneath my window, and the music would be so loud it would literally shake my bedroom. And I would call the police over and over because this music would go on all night long. We got to where we couldn't go to work because we'd been all up all night, fighting this, calling the police over and over and over again, just for them not to show up. At this point, they were telling me, sorry, we're overwhelmed. There's a lot of crime in the city. This is um, it's kind of low as far as crime. It's just a noise ordinance disturbing the peace. A lot of times, by the time I get a call back or a message back that they weren't coming, it'd be the next day. And a lot of times the music would still be going. And then they would block us in. They would park behind us and double park behind us and block us in, so we'd miss more work. And there's nothing we can do. You can't call the police. You can't get them to come tow the cars. Even the tow companies, when they would come over there to tow the illegal cars or the cars without tags, they would attack the tow trucks. They actually, we saw them attack Wyatt's towing and break out the windshield while we were watching. The police did respond to that, and there used to be a time when the police would respond rather quickly to any time we called. Um, then it became a time when they wouldn't respond at all. And that was when we started to get scared. So we thought we better take matters into our own hands. We bought cameras. We actually, we were contemplating, and actually did purchase a small one, but returned it as sirens to mount on the walls outside our apartment to kind of deter them from just the blasting of music over and over. And it seemed like the same 6 songs, I swear. Other times they would be arguing right outside our door with like 15 other people in our hallway. And we would hear all of it. We couldn't understand it. Neither one of us speak Spanish, but or Venezuelan. But we couldn't understand any of it, but they would argue so intently, and it would be all night long. And then it was the destruction of property. We used to have people that would come around, and they were paid for by the management, and they would come through and they would clean all the trash. And then they would clean a lot of trash, and it was everywhere. There were 12 packs of beer bottles and cans and just everywhere, just trash. And then vandalism in people's cars. My friend got his car stolen out of that parking lot after it had been vandalized the first time. They tried to steal it and didn't succeed. So we started to notice that the people over there had changed, and we were quickly becoming the minority. And you can notice that when you're walking in and out of the building and people are sitting on the stairs and they're armed. And of course, there's no law against being armed in Colorado. These people didn't have leases to be there. They were kicking in doors. And we watched as they slowly harassed our neighbors, and the neighbors were going through the same thing we were. They were probably even closer to the noise. It drove them out. It tortured them and just drove them from the property. And a lot of times there's the lady who lived across from us who I've released the video of them breaking into her apartment. We still don't know what happened to her. She left with like a backpack in the middle of the night with her daughter, and we still don't know what happened to her. The lady across, the one who was at the door of the famous video, the person who was living there when the video occurred was a squatter. It wasn't the leasee of that apartment. She had left long before due to intimidation. They threatened her. She had children. They got out of there really quick. They didn't tell anybody they were leaving. They just left. After they took over both of those apartments, me and my neighbor were just, we didn't know what to do. We'd called the police several times. The police said, sorry, we can't do anything. The owner isn't cooperating. And we didn't know what was going on at Nome Street at the time, just down the road. We didn't know what was going on at his other properties. We just knew that we couldn't get a hold of the landlord anymore, and we were trying. So at this point, we start looking for other apartments. And we're looking at like Saturday night, Friday night, and we're going around to these properties that are lower middle income, ones that we knew that it would be a stretch, but we could still afford it. And there would be the same thing outside, big groups of guys getting drunk, doing drugs, having prostitutes walking around and walking up to strange cars, and all of them carrying bags, and the intimidation and them staring you down as you pull through. And I would pull in and we wouldn't even look at the apartment. I would just say, absolutely not. And we would leave because we know that's just what we're going through now. So we stayed. And not that we could, really afford, we're on a fixed income. It's not that we could really afford to move anyway, but we were kind of like wish list shopping to see what we were finally going to end up having to pay to outrun this. As the intimidation increased, and they're carrying guns, and you see bigger and bigger guns and more guns and more people standing around with nothing better to do than to stare at you. My husband often says that we felt like we were like specimens walking through the courtyard past all these people just sitting there with their phones and their guns, watching us come back and forth with our groceries, with our laundry, with our family, with our, just, I feel like they were studying us, and that it's hard to live under that kind of scrutiny anyway. But we would put up with it and climb back up to the third floor and go into our apartment. And after they kicked in the 2 doors across from us, we decided that we needed more locks. And so that's how that video was created. Was we paid like $150. We had somebody come in and put in all the locks for us, so we would be safe because we already saw how they kicked in those doors, so we knew how to combat it. So we got one of those brace bars and put it up underneath the doorknob because the locksmith assured me that they would take that whole wall out before they'd take out that door. After that, my neighbor, the last other leasee in the building, this woman nearly my age, lived alone, was not armed, was incapable of defending herself should anything happen. Um, for a while, we depended on each other, and we'd call each other. Are you going to call the police? Report those gunshots? And she's like, I didn't hear them, so I'd report them, and then my husband would report them, and we were all just playing tag, sitting on hold for 45 minutes trying to report all this crime. And for a while, I would take videos from my cameras and I would submit them to the police. And it was a good long time. It was months that I was submitting video evidence to the police. Just because I didn't know what else to do with it. I didn't know what else to do. I was reaching out. The police by that time had told me that their hands were tied. I'd received a million excuses by then. Their hands were tied. They had to have so many people to respond. Just weren't that many available. They're overwhelmed due to 911 calls. And it was always somebody was more important than me and my family who were in danger. Okay. At no point in time did I have any idea that there was any such thing as a Tren de Aragua. Okay. I thought these guys were organized criminals. And that's exactly what I said in my first statement to the police. These guys are incredibly organized. When they moved into these apartments, they changed the locks on the outside of the doors, denying access to emergency personnel and the owners, as well as other people in the building. They would have to go up and knock on a certain window, and we've watched all this a bunch of times. They would have to knock on a certain window for someone to come to the door and verify it was okay for them to come in the building, especially the one where they hid the guns. And we had video of them with the guns. We had been reporting the guns were in that building for months. And of course, we're not going to go over there and hunt down the guns. And the police weren't going to go over there and hunt down the guns. And that's how they happened to have the guns on August 18th, when that famous video took place. Okay, so on the day of the 18th, my neighbor is so excited because she's moving. And she's very worried about me being alone with all these people that I'm steadily giving stuff to. I'm steadily giving all my extra food, my blankets, my everything, bug spray, extra sheets, clothes, everything that I think that they can use because I have so much. I wanted to share and kind of lighten their burden a little bit, even though none of these people are leaseholders. They are people with families. Okay. So I'm giving them food. I'm cooking them food. I'm hanging out with them. I'm asking them questions. We're using a little translator app. They're calling me mom because I'm helping them. The family I'm talking about is the one that I have the screenshots of them holding them at gunpoint, and their hands are up, and her nephew is standing there beside her. And when the morning that video occurred, I was standing outside my front door at 7:54 a.m. I know this because I have the phone record when I called the police. We're looking out, and the way our buildings are set up, there's this big block of window, and you can look straight into the next building in the block of window that covers all but the second floor. So you can see window and window, but there's this big band on the second floor landscape where you walk down where you can't see it from the next building. It's blocked. You just can't see it. It's all brick. So we're standing there and we're watching them leave out of an apartment on the third floor. 6 men, 3 of them are carrying semi-automatic weapons. They're all long. They're all scoped. This was shortly after the big get together with the Venezuelans, and there had been rumors online that we'd all been following about something in the works that was, kind of like the tension in the air. Everybody could feel something was getting ready to happen. I immediately called the police. 7:54 was when I called the police. I told her, "You call the police." I yelled into my apartment, "Honey, get your phone. You call the police." And so we all called the police same time. He comes to the door so he can watch them. They see me, see them. So they stop at the second floor where it's covered by brick. And while I'm inside calling the police, begging for someone to come help, reaching out to the Raven task force members who had given me their calling cards for me to call in case I seen anything more noteworthy. And I'm calling these people, please, these people have guns. I don't know what they're doing, but they're moving them. So that means something's getting ready to happen. So I tried to warn everybody. The police called me back at 8:09 from a restricted number and told me that there was an ongoing investigation into that area of Dallas Street, and that they would hate to jeopardize or interfere with that investigation. So, no, they were not going to come. Please call back if they do something else. Okay. These people, by now, I've communicated with them. I know they're illegal. I know they're illegal. They've all told me they're illegal. They don't mind admitting they're illegal. So now I'm terrified, and so I'm inside calling the police or responding to the police's call back, pleading with them, no, this can't be right. These guys have guns, y'all have to do something. And they send someone over. And this is a guy that I talked to before when we were trying to defend them coming up to our floor and we weren't able to stop them and the police didn't stop them. There was actually a time when we went out there and tried to defend and fight them off and be like, no, y'all, we don't want you up here. You're already destroying all the rest of the building. We do not want you up here. And 20 or 30 of them slowly started creeping up the steps. We called the police. Then they called the police. And they knew they didn't have a lease or a right to be there. And they still called the police to try to get us in trouble for stopping them from breaking into the apartments. It was the craziest thing. So the police finally do show up. But by that time, my husband's just like, what do you want me to do, honey? I can't stand here all day and defend it. When I go to sleep, they're going to kick it in anyway. I'm just one person. And I was like, you're absolutely right. What we're going to do is come inside. And the police tell us, please just go inside and lock your doors. Again, at no point do they say these people are likely gang members. You're risking your life by even interacting with them. So we go back in the house and we let them take over those apartments. And one of the guys who was trying to plead with us to let them in there, we'll call him my friend because that's what he said to me. His name was Oswaldo. I didn't know that until much later. But when he seen me, he would raise his hands and go, my friend. And so I would do the same to him. So I called him my friend. A lot of times this man would grab trash out of my hands and go take it off for me. Or if I had questions, like when I would see a lot of people with guns and I'm like, what is going on with the guns? Are we safe? Are we okay? Because it was just us and all these people. And it's a, yeah, no problema, no policia, we are all familia. And that's what he would say. And he would tell us that these guns were there to protect us. And we really hoped that was true. And they sent him over that day to tell us not to call the police. Of course, we'd already called the police. So that point was moot. And so my husband was trying to, so what's up with the guns? And he didn't really have an answer other than they were there to protect us, that they were defending us. Okay. So we're on edge all day. The police won't come. We know the guns are moving about. There's people walking around openly armed, like they're patrolling the property, waiting for something to happen. And at 11:20 that night, at 11:19, we catch video. We have video of 5 to 6 men running up into the building adjacent to us where they keep the guns. And then them coming back out of that building, running up into my building, and coming up the stairs. Now, my cameras are motion sensitive, and I have the regular standard Ring camera that everybody has, but I also have a mounted camera that's right here in the corner of my door, and that's how I was able to get the video out. But when one of my camera's motion detector went off, I was sitting on the floor right in front of the door, next to my coffee table, because this was a tiny little one-bedroom apartment I was trying to die for. I was sitting on the floor in front of the coffee table with my husband, and I had my phone propped up so I could just click on it and watch the video feed as it was happening. So I was watching it live while it was happening outside, and I'm taking screen grabs, and that's how I was able to get the picture of them holding my neighbor by gunpoint. I don't know where they went after that, because I'm on the phone with the police. I'm not watching the video anymore. I'm terrified. Everyone's got guns. I'm scared. I'm not watching anymore. I'm running back to my bedroom as far away from that door as I can, and I'm calling the police. Maybe 10 minutes after I called the police, after I tell them that something's going on, there's people outside my door with guns, I'm on hold with I think I called the non-emergency number. Actually, I'm not sure if I called 911 or the non-emergency number that time. But I'm on hold, and then you hear people yelling outside, and someone says, "Shut your mouth," and they say it in Spanish. And my father was Mexican. I don't know many phrases in Spanish, but that's one I know. And then all this gunfire just, it was probably 25 to or 25 to 30 shots, maybe, roughly. They found shell casings the whole length of the block. My friend, he was the one they were looking for. Across the hallway, they found him in the parking lot. And they shot holes through my car and my husband's car, trying to hit him. And they did. And we believe from the trail of blood, and the police later let me know that he had self-transported, or someone had transported him to the hospital. And he lasted for a couple of days, and the police came back around, and I was able to help them identify him from some of my videos. The next day, the police are everywhere. We went ahead and went to bed. We weren't there when the police finally showed up. They had an armored car, an armored vehicle, and the whole get up, the whole SWAT team and everything out there. The next day when we woke up, my husband was running late for work. They let him go. He got all the way to work and had to go to the doctor. So he went to the doctor's appointment, and as he was getting out of the car, he realized he has a bullet hole too. So he had to turn around and come back. And while I'm on the phone with him, I'm waiting for the police to come back up the block so I can give my statement, show them my video, talk to whoever I need to talk to, because I literally have a bullet hole through my car. While I'm standing there, Vicente Arenas from Fox 31, he's standing out there diligently waiting, hoping that I'll speak with him. And he kept trying to speak with me. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to speak with you. I'm distraught at this point. I'm fed up. I'd reached out to every community service. I'd reached out to the media. I'd reached out to everybody begging for help. And now I have bullet holes in my car. And I know my insurance isn't going to cover it. I'm already broke from all the cameras and locks and giving away food and doing everything. I'm already stretched as far as I can, and I can't sleep more than 4 hours a night still. He said, "You say that Nobody will listen to you. Let me listen to you. And by this time, my husband had showed up, and he's just, my husband's fed up. He's mad because there's a bullet hole in his car. The police won't let him onto the property. They won't let me leave. You know what I'm saying? He's kind of like stuck off the property. I'm kind of stuck on, and we're just like, what is going on with our lives? And Vicente is trying to talk to my husband, and my husband is talking to him, and I'm like, no, 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 talk to me first. Talk to me first. And he talked to me, and then he started talking to Vicente, and he showed him that video. And he's like, you're not going to believe what's going on here, man. And he showed him. And Vicente would just mouth hit the floor. He couldn't believe it. And he said, can I have a copy of that video? I promise you, I will not release it until you guys are safely out of here. And we agreed. And we sent him the video. And since then, we've become great friends. We actually talk to each other quite a bit. We sent him the video, and we waited to talk to the police, and the police never did come and take my statement that day. We ended up going inside and giving up, and I did send them the video before I'd sent it to Vicente. As soon as I called the police that night, I sent them the video. We didn't know what to do, so we just went back inside and waited. A couple days later, my husband gets a call from Vicente, and he says that he had talked to the councilwoman, Danielle Jurinsky, and he had shared our story and let her see the video and asked if he was able to share our phone number because she was asking for our number. And my husband said yes and provided her with my number. When she called me, she says, I seen your video. Do you guys still live there? And I said, well, yeah, I'm actually in the apartment right now. And she said, I'm going to get you out of there. And I just broke down crying. We had no hope left by then. And we were willing to sell everything we had to get out of there by then. She was able to, within the next 10 days, organize a group of people to help us move out because we were older. We're both in our 50s. And we didn't have the muscle power. We just didn't have the strength to load all of our stuff out of a third-story apartment into a U-Haul and then back into another apartment, even if we could find some place that we could afford. It took 10 days, and we were looking diligently every spare moment that we had to find an apartment that was far enough away and quiet enough that I feel like I could sleep. The very first thing we did when we moved in here, after it took an hour and a half to move us out of that apartment, and another hour and a half to get us in here. These guys, they put in work. Danielle Jurinsky, she sweat on my furniture as she was moving it. We've built bonds with these people that they're just too strong to break. These people helped me when I had no help. They moved us in here so quick, the very first thing I did was install more cameras. This is so unbelievable that I don't even blame people for not believing me because we couldn't believe it was happening. Not in Aurora, not in America. We just didn't think it was possible. And we grew up, we're both from military families. If you call 911, someone's going to come help. If you can't help yourself, someone's going to come defend you. If you're doing right, you're paying your taxes, you're paying your bills. And we were killing ourselves to pay our bills, but our bills were paid. And then to find out that there's no program for, older people that are victims of gang violence and a gang takeover of a building, that even the mayor can't admit to for more than a couple days. Now, I've shook the mayor's hand. I've met him at a public meeting, and he looked me in my face, and he said that he was sorry for everything that I've been through. So he knows who I am and what I've been through. if one of those people would have helped me when I was begging for help, not only would my friend still be alive, but I would still have my home and I would still live in Aurora. And I can't go back to Aurora. It's not safe for me. Not that I think it's safe for me here. People recognize me at work almost every time I go to work. So um, nobody would do this for fame. Nobody wants to be a famous victim. My husband doesn't want to be a famous victim. My family, my kids that still live in Aurora, don't want their mom to be a famous victim. Beating on the table until something is done about this and raising awareness of it so nobody has to go through what I did. I'm not going to let them victimize me anymore, and I'm not going to be victimized any longer by the city of Aurora.
Wow. Cindy, I appreciate you sharing your story so much. I know it is unbelievable. I know it's hard, but I'm glad we're able to get this information out there and kind of give you the whole picture of everything you've experienced. I
Yeah,
know you don't have a lot of time. How much do you still have any time to continue
yeah,
our
yeah.
conversation?
I can answer a few more
Okay.
questions.
So do you think, so Cindy, in terms of the amount of gang members in your building or in that building complex, I mean, how many do you think there were at any given time?
At any given time, there were 30 or 40 people in our parking lot getting drunk. I went back and looked at some of those videos. There are definitely TDA gang members in my videos. Definitely. They've been compared to the pictures of the arrests that, the few arrests that Aurora PD have made that are self-proclaimed, I don't know, or identified through tattoos or what, I don't know how they were identified, but they've all been identified by Homeland Security. The five people that were identified besides the one that was arrested in my video, there's still five at large. They have no idea where these people are.
Wow.
So that with Danielle Jurinsky's information about them saying that they had 200 people watching the buildings, and then you group that with the new police chief saying how hard it is to identify these, it's nearly impossible, and then me seeing them at almost every lower middle income property in Aurora and Denver. There's more than we think.
Wow. Now, did these gang members restrict access to your building? I know you said that,
Oh,
you know,
they, they would do weird things, like they would push the door shut. Our door was weird that if you pushed it too hard shut, you wouldn't be able to open it. And so someone like me would have to get my husband to go down there and, jam it with his shoulder to get it open. They did not change the locks on my building. I don't think my husband would have stood for it if they did. They did change the locks on my friend's building, the building across from us. He was there when it happened, and he was able to go out there and he's a big guy. He was able to go out there and intimidate the locksmiths. They brought in their own locksmiths to do it. He was able to intimidate the locksmith into giving him a copy of the key so he could freely come and go. But when that happened, he immediately called Danielle Jurinsky and was like, please help me get out of here.
wow.
And
Wow,
she
because
was able to help him get out as well.
well, that's great. Yeah, Danielle's been amazing, helping the community for sure.
I don't know
Definitely,
what I'd do without her, for real. Yeah. And just the strength that she has to keep coming in front of fire, to keep fighting for us and fighting for the truth. It's She's exceptional.
yeah, 110%. So as you saw your building get filled up by new people, so a lot of these people who were kind of squatting, who didn't have a lease, were potentially, undocumented or illegal immigrants coming in. And how many people were there total living in the building? You said 30 or 40 gang members at any time, but what about everybody else, all the
Oh, I
illegal
don't even know
immigrants that
if
were
the
there?
gang members were living there. They were just always there. They were just always sitting around outside. We'd find them passed out in the courtyard. They were just always there. They were, especially on the weekends, they'd be out in the parking lot drunk half the night into the next morning. And they were filling their cars too. They would be like 4 or 5 in each car. And I was just like,
Oh,
when will it end? And I've got so much video of that, just big, large groups of people in our parking lot just trashing the place. Um, I felt like some of them lived in the building, right across from me for sure, because the next day, once police questioned him, um, on the day after the murder, but when they were doing the police work outside, they were questioning him, and he brought out some paperwork or something, came right back into the building, packed up everything, and moved out.
wow.
So it doesn't take a genius to figure out. You put two and two together. So I started getting messages from the people who lived next to me, and we connected through WhatsApp. And I haven't been able to contact them for over a week or so now, but
Mm,
um, they were grateful for me releasing the video, although they didn't like being in the video because their children seen it in
mm,
Venezuela. Um, they were grateful that I was at least putting the videos out there because it ran off all the bad guys. And that's what they would say, that they needed food and they wanted me to bring them food, and they would tell me that all the bad guys had moved to a different tower, which is what they called the buildings. They called each one a tower, and they were like, you're safe, you can come over here now and bring us food, because they're into a different tower. Well, I don't know if any of that is true, because I also asked them what happened to my friend, and they told me that he moved away and he got a job. And the next time I was able to get any information about them, it was from a task force officer who was using my video to identify him.
wow. Wow. So do you think, these gang members were preying upon these people in the building because, they were illegal immigrants? They were, easy prey, I guess, for some of these Venezuelan gang members who could then exploit them, have
Oh,
them
yeah.
pay extortion or intimidate them into using their rooms for criminal activities?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I think that they would intimidate certain ones. The ones that they thought they could bully, they would definitely do it. Um, they didn't like physically try to confront me and my husband. We're not small people. Um, but they never tried to use any kind of physical intimidation with us, which they very well could have. They all had guns. Like I said, we did not know that they were anything but criminals, anything, just regular criminals. We were out there, kind of talking back to them and stuff, and telling them to turn their music down and take that loud music to the alleyway because we didn't want to hear it. We wanted to sleep. And sometimes out of frustration, we were moved to do it. We didn't even think about doing it. We were just forced to do it. Um, I did. How many live there? I don't know. I think they mostly lived in the building next to ours where the guns were, because there were several apartments over there that had maybe 8 or 9 people that were always in each apartment. I believe that there was an apartment that was below us that actually cooked for all of them,
Mm,
because it's certain times of the day, and you, like clockwork, if you smell food at 7 a.m., it's that apartment down there, and they're all coming through, and they would party all night till it was time to eat breakfast, come in and eat, and then sleep all day. So when I hear online all these people talking about, I just left there and it was quiet, and I was like, yeah, well, what time is it? 10 a.m. Yeah, it's quiet over there. You can't hear nothing at 10 a.m. over there. Go back after dark though. Go back Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. Um, I guarantee you'll hear more and see more than you'll ever see at 10 a.m. I actually, there was a neighborhood watch that was created because of this situation at my building. And I'm a member. So when there's gunshots over that building, I get an alert. When there's police called anywhere to that area, I get an alert. I know that crime isn't down in that area. We're working on ways to get shot spotter and neighborhood watch signs put up that we're going to pay for out of our own pockets, because I'm going to do what I got to do to protect that community. Um, I will never move back to that area, but I would consider moving back to Aurora if they ever did something about the criminal activity there.
So, now we know that the Aurora government, the Aurora police, really knew that this was a international criminal organization, that they're this big gang with foreign connections. Why do you think they wanted to downplay it? Why did they want to cover up the severity of the situation?
Well, I think it's a couple different reasons. Well, I think it's three distinct reasons. One, they don't want to give any credence to anything Danielle Jurinsky says. Um, that's one reason. For another, um, because of the uh, the influence of the changing of the Colfax corridor, the mayor Kaufman wants so badly to bring investors and new businesses into the area to rejuvenate that area, because every time you start talking to him about crime, that's the first thing he starts talking about, his plans for the corridor. And I believe it might be as simple as they ignored it so they could drive the price of the land that Nome Street Apartments is sitting on, because the immigrants that they moved out of Nome, when the owners went back in to see it after it had been shut down, they had literally stolen every appliance out of every apartment in that complex. That is, some people are coming here to look for the American dream, and I get that. I would like to find that in America since I'm a taxpayer. Um, some people are not. Some people are not only here to destroy what we have from within, but they're gaining footholds and testing our police to see what they can get away with and what they can get from us. And yeah, some are here to make friends and be nice and, like other Hispanics before them, assimilate into American culture. But there are some that do not like us. They're not here to be friends. They don't care at all about our laws, and they're here to take advantage and then destroy us from within. And I believe this because of the veracity and the ferociousness of the way these people were fighting with each other. Um, I've seen many fights out in the parking lot. I've seen many shootouts. I've seen many. The way they treat each other is horrible. And if they have no respect for each other, they definitely don't care anything about us. And we could see it on their faces as we would walk back and forth with our Walmart bags while these people are starving. Um, People who are desperate do desperate things. These people are desperate. And when they get pulled over by police and released right back out, and they get worried about police finding them, they just drive a little bit more down the road, go down I-70 just a little bit further to another town where they can dig in. These are turning into cells. They're pockets of criminals all along our major highways. TDA has been reported in 15 states. I just did an interview with the UK and a reporter from Sweden. This is a problem, and the longer that it goes unchecked, the worse it's going to get. And I mean, at this point, Aurora mayor and Aurora governor are insignificant because they can't stop the tide that they ignored. They ignored it, and now it's spread. And what they think was going to happen if they just shut down the apartments where the gang was thriving, they just pushed them 2 miles down the road to my apartments and put me in danger and didn't warn me that they were coming. And then when I expose my video, what do? They just go to another apartments. Now they're reported and taking over Whispering Pines. When are they going to finally confront the problem rather than call me a liar, or call Danielle a liar, or call John Fabricatori a liar? Because right now they're just calling names and not getting anything done.
Right. Oh, there's definitely a political agenda there for sure.
Mhm.
I mean, so Cindy, in a previous interview, you talked about buses coming in, Do you have any insight into how all of these migrants or these people came into your apartment building and others? You know, you talked
Oh
about,
yeah. Oh yeah.
is
For
there
weeks
not,
we've seen big vans. I've got pictures of one, but we've seen big vans like a, you know, not not buses, not like maybe they would sit like 12 or 15, but they were loaded full with migrants, with kids, and they would just pull up and everybody would come and just go to the different buildings. And they didn't live there before. I don't know where they came from, but whoever would drop them off would back right back out and leave. Just like the people who are washing windows and stuff on the corners. If you look carefully and you watch long enough, you're going to see somebody not so far away from there with a vehicle big enough for them all to fit in, who's getting a cut of all the work they're doing, and they're taking advantage of their own people. It's kind of the same in the apartments. They allowed them access. They would kick in these apartments, shop them around to whoever was willing to pay for them, and then charge them rent and bully them and get what they wanted out of them, taking their cut out of everybody. Um, it's horrible to even think about, let alone watch it spread. So
how
that's why we
about,
had to come forward with our that we have to do something.
you know, definitely appreciate that. I'm really thankful. And I mean, that was very courageous for you to get this information out there, to share those videos, because I'm sure that was very scary to think that you're exposing all of this criminal activity, you know, that you could potentially be targeted because of it or something along those lines. Do you have any, there's been some talk about, you know, either the building company or a managed property management company working with nonprofits or other organizations to, that they were getting money maybe for bringing in some of these people and kind of leasing to this big group of undocumented or illegal immigrants or anything like that. Do you have any thoughts on any of that, or have you seen anything like that?
Well, I know that it's quite possible because a lot of these apartments, before these migrants started moving into them, they were perfectly livable. They were nice. My apartment was nice. I didn't have any problem with codes. So a lot of these apartments, it's quite possible they did. I don't have any inside information on them whether or not they did. Like I said, there was a big time when the I felt the property was thriving and it was getting cleaned up and things were getting fixed regularly and there was communication with the management company, and then everything started to go to hell. And the apartments were trashed right along the time that the landlord stopped answering our emails. We seen more and more cars with no tags at all, looking like they just got in a hit and run. You know what I'm saying? You've seen them all over the place. You know, the cars that look like they just got in an accident. You know, pieces are just falling off of them. There are also cars everywhere on stands that look like they're going to be worked on for the next week and a half. They were just everywhere, and it just happened all of a sudden. And we were just like, what is going on? Like, we couldn't believe that the city was putting up with it, because the city will mess with you if you let your grass get too long. But they're going to let gangs come out here? This is crazy. We just couldn't believe it.
Wow. Well, one last question for you, Cindy. You know, what do you think when you see the governor or other politicians say there's no real problem in Aurora, there was no gang takeover of these buildings? What do you think when you hear that?
I'm disgusted. I'm just disgusted with it all. And every email that I read just makes it worse. I was suspicious that it was being covered up, like not just ignored, but actively covered up. Um, when Mayor Kaufman looked me in my face and said he was sorry for what I was going through and what I'd been through, and I looked at him in his eye and I seen it. He knew the truth. He really knows what I was going through, and he'd known about it for a long time. So when to get this information to come out and me know, oh, okay, now that's proof that my feelings were correct. And that's why I've been jabbing them in the press. I've been jabbing Mike Kaufman. I've been jabbing Jared Polis. I've been jabbing Jason Crow. These are all people that were reached out to and begged for help, and they ignored us. Also, the Neighborhood Watch that I'm a part of, they reached out to the same people I did. Kyle Clark. We reached out to what we were familiar with, our first instinct was reach out to names we knew. Um, I wish I'd known Danielle before. I wish I'd reached out to her first.
Well, Cindy, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know it was longer than we had planned, but it's such an incredible story. Hopefully, like you said, the getting this information out there, it doesn't happen to anybody else. The government, the people really need to stand up and not allow this to continue to happen, to put our feet down and say, no more of these criminal gangs taking over our neighborhoods. And so I thank you so much for everything you've done and standing up and speaking out. And I appreciate you. And
Yeah.
if there's anything I can do to help or anything we can do to get more information out there, please don't hesitate to let me know.
Yeah, all I want to do is share my GoFundMe enough to get my bullet holes fixed because it's hard to move to a better part of town and now I look like a criminal.
Well, I'll definitely,
Plus, my car's famous. It's been on every newscast since the murder happened. So yeah, that's the only thing. I want there to be some support for people who are victims of this, and I'm going to keep banging on the table until somebody does something.
wonderful.
That's
Cindy, I'll
just the way it
definitely make
is.
great. I'll make sure to share the GoFundMe and on the website as well. Everybody can find that at freestatecolorado.com. If you look for this interview, you can go to the GoFundMe there as well. But Cindy, thank you so much. Take care
Thank
and
you.
best wishes to you and your family.
Thank you so much, and to yours as well.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah.